الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه وصحبه من العباد والشفيع الهلاك وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل واجعلنا من حيث أمة سيدنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Well, you're giving us you're giving that kind of look. I'm thinking, what's going on? Okay, so inshallah, if we continue what we didn't do last week, so we didn't finish the hadith, and I said that inshallah today we'll complete it because I didn't want to rush it last week. So I'll just quickly then Bismillah. An Abi Ruqayyah at-Tamimi bin Rasulullah radiyallahu anhu an-Nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam qala ad-dinu nasihatu wa li rasulihi wa li kitabihi qulna liman qala lillahi wa amatihim al-muslimina wa li imanatihi, and a riwayat is in Muslim. Okay, so the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on the authority of Tamim ibn Awas, Dari, may Allah be pleased with him, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, religion is sincere well-wishing. We said, to whom? He sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, to Allah, His book, His messenger, and to the leaders of the Muslims and their common folk. So what we talked about last week was we focused on the first part of that, which was we came at a definition of what Nasiha is, and we mentioned that it's absolute, showing absolute goodness to somebody. And naturally, how do we do that? How do we show that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We show that by showing the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I mentioned so many things on that part, and the true way of showing that is identifying yourself as truly being a slave. You know, Abdullah, truly being a slave of Allah, and that's how you're going to show it. And the example given of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was very proud of the fact that he would call himself the slave of Allah. Abdullah, one of the greatest miracles to take place, the life of the Prophet ﷺ, was the Isra Miraj, the ascension to heavens. And how is that described in the Quran? Allah Ta'ala describes how glory be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has taken his slave. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, identifying one of the greatest miracles that took place during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we gave a few examples of some of the people and how truly loving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, loving Allah for what He deserves to be loved, not for any kind of anything in return. Oh yeah, I'm going to love Allah, I'm going to worship Allah so that I go to paradise, okay? Or I'm not going to do X, Y, and Z so that I don't go to hell. You know, the wali Allah, they love Allah for the sake of loving Allah for what He deserves to be loved, okay? And that's when we talk about another example I want to give is when we speak about wali Allah, they're known as Arif Billah. The word Arif means, or the Arabic word Arif means, it comes from what Arif means, to return something. So Alim is different and Arif is different. Alim is that to learn something, but Arif is to return to that something that you already knew. So what it is, you're going back to, we already know that. How do we know that? Because we were all present when all the souls were called, and Allah Ta'ala says that, am I not your Lord? And everyone said, yes, you are our Lord. So we're just returning back to those memories that we've got of ourselves. We don't have the memories because we're not at that level, but the wali Allah and the pious and those, they have memories of it. Well, we'll say that, but it was actually, I want to quickly narrate this story of when the Prophet ﷺ was talking about this. You'll know about this, when all souls were gathered together. Before time, all souls were gathered together. All souls, whether they were Muslims, non-Muslims, all gathered together. And Allah Ta'ala said that, am I not your Lord? And everyone said, yes, you are. The Prophet ﷺ, when describing this, asked people that, anyone remember that? You're thinking, well, how does someone remember that? You've got stories of pious people who remember when from the age of 2, 3, something like that. That's amazing as it is, but this was like not even before we were born and ages ago. Out of all the people, one person shyly and up and said, "O Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I remember." That was Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq. Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq said that I remember being in that gathering where the souls were. And I remember that when Allah Ta'ala asked us a question and the Prophet asked, well, what do you remember? And Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq says, I remember that Allah asked us all, and you were the first one to reply, you are. And these are amazing. These are like stories of these amazing people, amazing. The point of getting this across is people realize where we, I would say should be, but where people got to and where we are. You know, you just challenge yourself more and more. Another quick story I want to mention when it comes to loving Allah is we mentioned last week about Rabi al-Basri. Another one, a famous person when it comes to loving Allah is Rumi. And stories of Rumi, he speaks about it in his poetry so much. And Ottomans, they love it. One of the books that's got so much wisdom in the Rumi's book. It's amazing. There's a talk about Rumi was walking along on the street, and someone was playing the flute. And he went into that, that dance, what they call raqs, it's called. The twirling, the Sufi dance. Yeah, so Rumi went into that. Raqs is called. It was us, we say, it was a Sufi sahab, what you're doing, it's haram. It's a flute. Playing a flute is haram. But they asked Rumi, and Rumi says, you guys hear obviously Rumi was an amazing scholar. Don't think Rumi was just, he was an amazing scholar, he had so much knowledge. He said, you lot hear the flute being played. I hear the cry of the wood that's departed from, or the bark that's departed from the trees. So they saw things in a complete different way to us. And that's what like true love was. Love truly for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he deserves. Okay, and then we talked about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how we should be following the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we show respect to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how it should be, the Quran obviously, and replace it and all that. Now we're going to move on to the second part of it, and moving on to the messenger. And as we described, and obviously I don't do justice to when I talk about love for Allah Ta'ala. And obviously I can't do justice when I talk about love for the Messenger of Allah. But we're going to just touch upon it briefly. And there's so many examples on it, and there's so many hadiths where we talked about loving the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and loving him Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam more than you love anything. From the Quran of the ayahs of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala saying that follow him. And the Prophet mentioned about, follow me. And if you're knowing me, you're knowing Allah. Okay, there's hadith on this, there's so much on there. So loving the Prophet should be, without trying to go into controversial, because you've had all these groups of try to compare, and they claim it. And I've heard it so many times that, you love the Prophet so much. And they bring him to shirk and bidah and all that. You can't love the Prophet enough. To show that you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much doesn't mean that you need to downgrade your love for the Prophet. Okay? Same way, I don't see how to show that you love the Prophet you need to turn around and say certain things that, all the way you need to do that. Some of these nuts that come along and say, I don't even care about the Kaaba and all that. Well, you don't have to say stuff like that to love the Prophet You don't have to put it like this. It's like through the Prophet you're reaching Allah Ta'ala. Okay, it's more like this. You're gonna look at it rather than side by side. It's more like this. So through the Prophet now by following the Prophet you're loving Allah. Okay, because Allah loves His beloved. Examples of as parents, right? You'd love it if someone showed love to your children. One of your child is your favorite child, whoever it is, and someone showing love to him, what you'll feel pleased, happy. So think about it. If you're showing love to the Prophet ﷺ, the beloved of Allah, Allah Ta'ala will be pleased on you. Okay, so think of it. Think about it like that. There was the famous piece of when a Bedouin came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, "Oh, oh Messenger, what can you tell me about the hour? Because they used to ask the question about the hour so many times to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, what have you prepared for it? And, have you prepared your prayer and all that? And the Bedouin said, look, it's not my prayer and my fasting is not really that good. But I know one thing. Oh, Messenger, I love you. Oh, Messenger, I love you. And when he said that, oh, Messenger, I love you, the Prophet ﷺ smiled at him and said, you'll be with the one you love. And when the Sahaba heard this, they said there was nothing so beloved to us. There was nothing so beloved on hearing those words. Because one thing the Sahaba knew is that they loved the Prophet ﷺ. They dearly loved the Prophet ﷺ. And the hope was that they were going to be with the one who they love. And we make dua that Allah Ta'ala makes us one of those lucky. We don't deserve that, but we just show our love in words. We love our worldly things and everything. And when we talk about loving the Prophet ﷺ, it's all in words. We don't truly love him ﷺ, how he deserves to be loved. Showing in terms of love for the Prophet ﷺ, an example is Awais al-Qarni. You guys know the story of Awais al-Qarni? Now I keep say this and then I ask you guys know it, right? And then no one answers and then I have to tell the story. Awais al-Qarni was the one who visited the Prophet ﷺ. He used to take care of his mother, who was not well, and then he got permission from his mother that I want to go and visit from Yemen. I want to go and visit the Prophet ﷺ. And she gave him permission for that one case, and she said that go, but if you're not there, then come back. So he went, and the Prophet ﷺ had gone somewhere. So what, anyone else is thinking, look, this is the Prophet ﷺ. I'll just wait for him. No, he comes straight back. And the Prophet talks about Awais al-Qarni so many times. And he mentioned after I passed away, he told Hazrat Umar that go to Awais al-Qarni and tell him to make dua for the Ummah. The Prophet ﷺ telling Hazrat Umar, to go to Awais al-Qarni and tell him to make dua for the Ummah. Okay. After the Prophet ﷺ passed away, Awais al-Qarni actually came back to Medina. Came back all the way to Medina from Yemen, traveled all the way from Yemen to Medina, came to the boundaries of Medina, stood there and gave his salam to the Prophet ﷺ and says, Awais is not worthy of entering Medina. Went off. You got Imam Malik. And we talked about the madhab, Imam Malik, the Malik school. Lived all his life in Medina. Twice, only on two occasions or two scenarios, he left Medina. When we talk about Medina, we're talking about the old Medina city. Now it's kind of quite big. The old Medina city. He would leave Medina city to relieve himself, to go to the bathroom. He would not relieve himself in Medina. He would not ride a horse or ride an animal in Medina. When he would walk in the streets, he would rub his body against the buildings in the hope that he'll be rubbing against a building where the Prophet ﷺ would have touched. He left Medina to do Hajj. He only did one Hajj in his lifetime. He had opportunity to do many, and he didn't want to leave for that one Hajj because he feared that he's going to leave Medina and he's going to end up dying somewhere, and he won't get buried in Medina. So he wouldn't go. Then he had a dream. The Prophet ﷺ came in his dream, and then he went and done Hajj. And he came back, didn't leave Medina. These people, I mean, stories can go on and on, showing love for the Prophet ﷺ. We don't appreciate it because we don't appreciate, I think it was Sheikh Muhammad Ali Kubi mentioned that you love someone. Let's narrow it down to two things. One is they're beautiful. Second one is that they've done something for you. Okay, I mean, there's other reasons, but I'm not going to go into on off and off. Let's just concentrate on these two here. If it were just for the looks, the Prophet ﷺ was the most beautiful out of all of them. There's clear reason that. So you should love him for that, he being more beautiful. And the second one is because someone's done something for you. So someone's done something for you, you feel that, oh, this guy's done something for me, or this person's done something for me, I'm indebted to him. The amount the Prophet ﷺ has done for us. even on the hadith, of so many hadiths, if I didn't fear for my ummah, the weakness of my ummah, I would have done this and this and this. So many times that's showing the mercy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So many rulings have been cut down just for our sake. Him returning back to his Lord on the night of Miraj just to shorten the prayers from 50 because of his ummah. Okay. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would stay awake all night. His blessed feet would swell up because he would stand in prayer and cry for his ummah. And his wife and Sayyidah Aisha would say that, oh, why do you stand in prayer and cry when your Lord has already forgiven you? And he said, should I not be a grateful servant? It would, every time it was about his ummah, my ummah, my ummah. And we're not going to appreciate him. We're going to appreciate it on Judgment Day, when everyone's going to see truly what the Prophet ﷺ is doing for us. On Judgment Day, when everyone's going to go to all the prophets asking, Allah Ta'ala is so angry, help us, help us. And every prophet's going to say, no, Allah Ta'ala is so angry, I'm for myself today. They're all going to direct to another prophet, which will finally come to who? The Prophet ﷺ. The kafir, so the non-Muslims and Muslims, they're all going to come to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ is going to go into sajda for us. Let the reckoning start. We're going to really appreciate, like I said, if you don't already, you really appreciate, you need to appreciate what the Prophet ﷺ has done and what he will do for us as well. That's amazing on so many occasions, what he will be doing for us. Coming into coming into hellfire and taking people out. Those are in hellfire. So he ﷺ says, I'm not going to enter Jannah until my ummah are in heaven. Okay. So like I said, I could go on and on about that, but things like this you should be made of and think about more and more. You can never show enough love for the Prophet ﷺ, and showing the love for the Prophet ﷺ doesn't mean that you're downgrading the love for Allah. Increase your love for Allah. Increase your love for Allah. Increase your love for the Prophet. By increasing your love for the Prophet, again, it's the same as increasing love for Allah Ta'ala is to know about it. So inshallah, once these recap modules are finished, we're going to move on to the Aqeedah module, which will be almost talking about Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, so you can appreciate, the greatness and the magnitude of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And the same thing, to know the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you should not learn about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Seerah, Shamal, everything. And if you're following the Sunnah, you're automatically, loving Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So you don't need to worry about that. And finally, moving on to the final section of this hadith is, so up to that point, we're talking about, the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, his Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's books, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala himself. Now you can actually move on to the part where you can actually give advice to someone. So when we talk about Nasiyah is about giving advice. Well, this is the part where you can actually give advice to someone, leaders and Muslim folk and the common folks. This is where you're relating man to man, and you're giving advice as it is. And I'm not gonna separate the leaders and Muslim folk. I'm just gonna talk about it all in general. But you need to know, if someone's a leader, basically they've got more responsibility, and that doesn't mean you're still not able to give them advice. The first thing you need to remember is that if you've been given that opportunity, or moving back, actually, if you're going to give someone advice, give them with mercy. Give them with mercy, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala shows mercy to someone who's showing mercy to others. And if you're in that position to give someone advice, don't think, oh, I'm better than this person. Don't think I'm better than this person, that's why I'm giving this advice to this person. Now, Allah Ta'ala has given you the opportunity, the best way, the opportunity to put you in that position to be able to give someone advice. Make the most of that. Okay. Remember, Hazrat Umar Farooq. Who was Hazrat Umar Farooq before quit Islam? A man who set off on his path to go and kill the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, sword in hand. So if you had seen Hazrat Umar Farooq when he was on his way to kill the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, would you say that he was beloved to Allah? Person is always beloved to Allah, regardless of what's stated in them, or if they are going to be beloved. So Hazrat Umar Farooq was always beloved to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because Allah knew exactly what's going to happen. So he was always beloved. But for us common folks, if we had seen Hazrat Umar Farooq then, what would have been our thought? Our thought would have been that this guy, look, Ghaffar, he's going to kill the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There would be hatred for him. So remember, things can change. Today you're giving someone advice. Tomorrow it could be they're giving you advice. So show mercy, humble yourself, put it down to this is how I'm doing it. Allah's given me this opportunity. Show mercy on it and giving it advice. Don't be basically that's the word we use, kind of thing. Show too much of that. Okay. Pride in what you're doing. I'm a better person than this person. It's not. So finally, finishing off actually on this is I want to give an example of the grandchildren of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's Sayyidina Hassan, Sayyidina Hussein, how beautifully they gave an advice, or they gave advice to an old man. I was going to ask, have you guys heard the story? But I'll just tell the story anyway, yeah? Okay. So there was an old man, and this after the Prophet ﷺ, that's where obviously there was an old man, and they were still young. There was an old man who was making wudu, but he was doing it incorrectly. And they saw this, that this old man is making wudu incorrectly. And they thought, oh, how do we kind of correct him? If it was us, right, we go over here, Babaji, what's going on here? But they went over and they said, this is the reason they went over and they said that, and it's amazing because they've been brought up, and it's how they've been brought up as well. If there was time, if there's one, and I didn't want to say, but because I need to check on it, but I remember one of my teachers mentioning about a time when the Prophet ﷺ was in the masjid, and obviously there's what they call charity, and that time it was dates. And I think it was either Hassan or Hussein, which were probably a baby, and they'd come over and they'd pick a date, and the Prophet ﷺ almost like, obviously disciplined them, like told them off, like, these are dates aren't for us. Even at a young age, when someone's doing wrong, it's just reminding them that, they're doing wrong, and then that's how they've been brought up, because then they remember that one thing. So they went over to the old man and said, could you do us a favor? Can you tell us which one of me and my brother makes wudu the best way? Which one of us makes wudu the best way? So they start making wudu. And the old man says, I don't make wudu like that. They said, this is how our grandfather has told us how to make wudu. Because then I can't tell you who made the best wudu, because I've been making it wrong all my life. See how subtly, without making the guy feel bad that he's done something wrong, they've taught him how to make something like making wudu. So there's a way of doing everything. I know, I'm probably the worst person to basically come out with stuff like this, right? I'm too harsh with this. I'm straight up, tell them as it is. But I'm giving myself a reminder before I give everyone else. So whenever I say something, I'm always giving myself a reminder before I give someone else. I need to correct myself, and hopefully then it passes on to others as well. Any questions on this before we finish? Well, inshallah, next week we'll move on to the next of these. Just move on to the fiqh aspect then, yeah? As I do every week, can anyone remember what, is it me or is it hot in here? The heat? No, it's cold. It's probably me, and I'm getting too jazbati. Where did we get to?
Got up to. I got up to Guida. No, he actually wrote Guida. Position of hands. Position of hands. Wait, that's what you wrote, Guida.
Okay, we got to this point. I mentioned about duas. Okay, I think the picnic should be over by now. Enough sweets? No, I'm okay. Should we continue? Yeah? So everyone settle down a bit. So we covered etiquettes of dua. this is where we finished off on last week. I was thinking of actually talking, because we covered how to pray, I was thinking of going into inner dimension, so inwardly, what we talk about, inner dimension of prayer. But maybe we'll leave that next week and I'll probably do a bit more detail than what I was initially thinking of. So instead of today, we'll move on to actually what invalidates a prayer. But before I do that, because you guys have covered now how to pray, naturally you're going to have questions in your mind when you see other people praying differently, or someone's going to come to you and say, you know, pray, why are you praying like that? I've described the madhabs to you guys, to everyone. I've described the 4 madhabs, okay? One thing you got to remember is that you stick to the madhab. Some scholars say that it's actually compulsory to stick to a madhab. So they say, because don't forget, these are people who have gone through hadith after hadith, and this has gone through, you know, we think we're clever. Thousands and thousands of great scholars have basically asked questions on this and done that, and these madhabs have been created. You know, if you go into describing the 4 imams, they were amazing personalities. Remember, Imam Abu Hanifa was actually a tabi'in. He met Sahaba. He met Sahaba. You know, some of the things that you can turn around and just talk about this time is there may be certain hadiths that we can understand better just because of technology. When they're talking about maybe the solar system or stuff like that, because of technology, we'll understand them better. Or if they're talking about signs of Qiyamah, we actually see the signs taking place and we can say, look, this is what the real interpretation is. But when it comes to these fiqh rulings and stuff like that, I'm sorry, but you can't touch those. These people were right at the top. Oh, they were amazing personalities. They've been through it all. You're thinking that you know a hadith that, you know, all these have gone through and no one picked up that hadith, and you're going to turn up and say, yeah. They knew the hadith, but they've got this methodology where they followed. So I'm going to just mention a couple of examples. The first one is that Hanafis talked about ignoring hadith a lot. So in the prayer, remember what we talked about? First of all, can someone tell me the difference between fard and wajib? Afana, can you tell me the difference between fard and wajib? Someone tell me the difference between fard and wajib. You both have to. You do have to do them both.
Yeah, the fard one is more strict than the
No. So both of them you have to do. The only difference is that one of them, the well, sorry, someone give me an answer. Go on, give it a go. If you make. Yes. So what's fard then? Fard is also obligatory to perform. So why have we got 2 different names, fard and wajib?
There's different things.
For us, for a legal ruling, it's the same. But what you got to understand is the evidence that was used to get to a fard is decisive evidence, and to get to a wajib is non-decisive evidence. So if something's clear-cut written in the Quran, there's no doubt in it, they put that down as fard. There's no 2 ways about it. But if there's some doubt, or it's coming from a hadith and there's some doubt on it, but it's definitely showing clear-cut in the hadith as well that you have to do it, the scholars to play safe, they put it down as wajib. So when it comes to reciting Surah Al-Fatiha, the Hanafis say it's wajib. Okay? There's an authentic hadith that says that there is no prayer for one who does not recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Authentic hadith that says there is no prayer for one who does not recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? So we're saying here, but wait a minute, okay, it's wajib. Why didn't we say it's fard? This is authentic. And the understanding here is that whenever the Prophet ﷺ would give a description of there is no this, if there's no this, then that. When the Prophet ﷺ would give this in a hadith, it's not taken literally. It means to perfect it. So there's no faith for someone who's not trustworthy. The hadith to say there's no faith for someone who's not trustworthy. So does that mean someone that's not trustworthy is a kafir? No, it means you're not perfect. Another one is none of you believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. Well, we're stuck then, aren't we? If we don't, because none of us do we? If I'm honest with you, so does that mean that we're all disbelievers? No, what it means is you're not a perfect believer until you don't love for your brother what you love for yourself. So this is what you're going to take it. So you're going to put it across the board. So the same way in this hadith where he says there's no prayer for one who does not recite Surah Al-Fatiha means your prayer is not perfect if you don't recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Meaning it's not that your prayer is completely rejected. That's what you need to understand from that. And the reason why it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, recite whatever is easy for you. And that's what the systematic approach by Imam Abu Hanifa was. He would take from the Quran first. And then he would back it up with hadith. So the Quran was there first and then back it up with hadith. So if it says recite whatever is easy, then that means that whatever we recite, that should be sufficient. Okay? And then obviously you've got other hadiths when you talk about it that added on. Another one is the position of the hands, which is probably quite popular for you guys. So there's several authentic hadiths that say clasp the hands on the chest. Clasp the hands on the chest. And the word here used is sadr. Sadr means chest. So why is it that as Hanafis, I mean, women or men, we put our hands all the way down here by, navel, where it clearly says clasp your hands on your chest. Actually, Hanafis follow the hadith of Hazrat Ali, who says clasp your hand below your navel, even though there's a bit of a chain in there that makes it slightly weak. So Hanafis are completely lost in. Not only do they not follow the authentic hadith, they decided to follow the weak hadith. Now it's not like that. There's a few pointers here. You got to think of the transmitted practice of the great companions. And the transmitted practice of Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq and Hazrat Umar Farooq and all these was that they would place their hands below the navel. And that's what we take to strengthen the reasoning behind it. None of the four imams, so the four schools, none of the four imams take the position that the hands need to be on the chest. The Shafis are the only ones that say that your hands should be above the belly button. That's what they say. Okay? Not even Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, who was like one of the great hadith masters. And the last point is that the chest in Arabic, this is I'm talking. So, if you talk about modern chest, what do you say? If I say to you chest, what do you describe? This part, isn't it? From here down to here, that's your chest. But when the word is used chest, it means from here all the way down to here. That's all your chest. So the question is, in the hadith, what was the Prophet ﷺ referring to when he said chest? I remember what I said earlier on, that Imam Abu Hanifa was actually a tabi'in who met Sahaba. He knew Arabic like the Prophet ﷺ would speak it. So that's the Arabic he knew. So you're telling me he wouldn't understand this? He doesn't know the meaning of all this. So don't take things in isolation. Don't turn around and just pick up a hadith and say, this is it. It's already been done for you. So if people come back and say that, oh, why do you follow the Imam Abu Hanifa instead of following the Prophet ﷺ? We're not doing that. We're basically following the Prophet ﷺ through following Imam Abu Hanifa. They've done all the hard work for us. Why do you think you're so clever? And you're just going to pick and choose here. Or is it when my teacher uses the description, just picking bunnies out of the ears? I'll pick this one from here, then I'll pick that one from there, then I'll pick this one from here because it's easy. That's why the scholars say that it's compulsory to follow one madhab, not pick and choose, because then your nafs comes into play. That one's easy for me, so I'll follow this one. That one's easy for me, I'll follow this one. Nah, okay, let me go back to that one now. Because you're going to do whatever, I mean, okay, fair enough, you pick the easy option, but that's according to, there has to be some structured approach. I gave a description when I think I was explaining to the girls on Friday about the madhabs. Instead of looking at it as a maths question, where there's a right and wrong answer, think of it as an English question. So some teachers set an English question, Now go off and answer it. Now, if you have 4 different answers, but all of them have got some reasoning behind it and they followed some approach, all of them are going to get the marks. All of them are going to get the marks. Okay, it's not right and wrong answer here. So following the madhab is fine, and you should basically be following the madhab. That's important. One final point. What's going on with this? Okay, one final point is women's prayer. So, the last point. So the sunnah is transmission of words and practice. So this is why, the hands, we're not only taking words, but we're taking what the practice was at that time. So what was the practice by the companions, etc. Okay. The final one is the women's prayer. So the basis of man's prayer is hard manifestation, like I spoke about, and the basis of a woman's prayer is satr, which is concealment. Okay. So what about the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ who said that pray as you see me? So you can just take the hadith, say Prophet ﷺ said pray as you see me. So why are you telling women to pray differently and men to pray differently? Prophet ﷺ said pray as you see me. Yeah, but who did the Prophet ﷺ say that to? So the Prophet ﷺ was talking to the men. That pray as you see me. And where do we take this concealment from? It's from the practice of the great female companions. Like Sayyidah Aisha, how she would, just to pray in a concealment form, etc. This is where we take that from, and that's why women pray in like a concealment form. So remember, the reason why I'm mentioning this is naturally with the apps nowadays, you can get a hadith a day, and people sending you hadith after hadith, and then you're just going to put suspicion in your mind. Wait a minute, the hadith clearly says it, and it's Bukhari as well. There's not 2 ways about it. Can you believe it? You can't follow your mother based on the purpose of the Sahih Bukhari wasn't for you to hear, this is how you do your, follow Islam. The purpose of Sahih Bukhari was just to get the authentic hadith in one place, the most authentic hadith. And then you've got the fuqaha who would then pick what they require to then bring it all together. You can't turn on, if you start following Sahih Bukhari, you can turn on and start following Sahih Bukhari, and you get to one point, right? And in Sahih Bukhari, it tells men to relieve themselves standing up, because there was an occasion where the Prophet ﷺ stood up and relieved himself. Because why? There was so much dirt around him that had he knelt down and relieved himself, then it would have made more of a mess on him. So at that reason, obviously that's to teach us as well. Because then, a person would think that, there's no way possible that they can relieve themselves standing up. But if there's a scenario somewhere and the harm is more by doing it sitting down, then you can. You only learn about relieving yourself sitting down about 4 or 5 volumes down the line. So if you're going to follow that scenario, you'll be doing it wrong. You understand? It's just like an example. You can't just take Sahih Bukhari and say, look, I'm going to follow my mother based on Sahih Bukhari. That wasn't the purpose of why Sahih Bukhari was created. Slightly off topic, well, I'll say off topic, but I know these questions are going to be raised and it's linked to prayer. Because we've covered the entire prayer, you should know these kind of things and bear them in mind. The easiest thing, like I said, is stick to the madhabs and follow the madhab. And it doesn't matter what madhab, it doesn't mean that, okay, we're following Hanafis, and if someone's a Shafi, then we look down on them, wait a minute, he's a Shafi? No. Follow a madhab, and that's fine. Okay? The basis of how you choose your madhab is, if it's in your household, you grew up on it, then you stick to that. Otherwise, if there's new reverts and they ask you what madhab you follow, whatever in your surrounding area, they can get your questions answered. So if you've got scholars in the Hanafi madhab, then be Hanafi. My teacher gave an example. He was teaching in Cardiff, and the reverts came to him and said that, what madhab should we follow? And he knew that there was some good Shafi teachers there. He said, just be a Shafi. Because then if you've got any issues, you can go to the Shafi teacher and then they'll rectify it for you. And that's what's important. One final point I just remembered now is that, you got a question? Sure. Final point is around, I think it's more related to men. So men praying behind an imam, or obviously when women do, but mainly men do that. Praying behind an imam, you don't read the Fatiha. Okay? And according to the Shafis, it's fard, you have to read the Fatiha. According to the Malikis, you read the Fatiha for quiet prayers, and you don't read it for loud prayers. But for Hanafis, you can't read the Fatiha. Yeah, it's makruh. Makruh to read the Fatiha. So the question would be that, well, why don't you just take a, obviously someone would turn around and say, well, why don't you take the kind of, but especially when we talked about the hadith, and he says that there's no prayer without the Surah Fatiha, let's just play safe and just read the Fatiha anyway. Why don't we play safe? You can't play safe because if according to your mother, it's makruh to do something, then you can't follow the position of another mother. At best possible, you follow a position that there's no contradiction in. So let's take an example for something that you can follow that you're not contradicting with anyone. The Zohar prayer, you shouldn't delay your Zohar prayer to just before Asr. Why? Because according to the Hanafi, just before Asr time, the Shafi's Asr starts earlier. So what you're doing actually is you're praying your Zohar within the Shafi's Asr prayer. Your prayer is still valid, there's no two ways about that, but it's best to avoid a difference. It's best to avoid that time because then, you're playing it safe, aren't you? And that's the idea on that. Any questions on that before we move on? It was a bit, out of the blue kind of thing, not linked in, but I think it was important. You've been muttering for so long, I'm sure you got a question. Okay. Okay, so moving on to protecting the prayer. Generally speaking, right, South Asia is Hanafis. So everyone here, you're all Hanafis here, okay? In the Arab world, a lot of them are Shafis, or in Africa, etc., a lot of them are Malikis, basically. Yeah, a lot of people don't know. If I'm honest, a lot of people don't know. No, it's not about that finding out. It's like I said, it's if someone doesn't know and they've been taught in a certain way, then you need to understand what they've been taught in, and according to what they've been taught in, then you'll know what mother they're following. Okay. Well, if it's around this area, there will be Hanafis. Yeah, there'll be Hanafis. Okay, shall we move on then? Yeah. So we're going to move on to invalidators of prayer now. There's a few principles when it comes to the prayer or protecting the prayer. Principle one is movement. So excessive movement that's not from the prayer, if that's done, then that invalidates the prayer. Let me see if I've gone into detail on these. Yeah, I've got a big description, but yeah. Excessive movement that's not from the prayer invalidates the prayer. Fidgeting or repeated minor movements, that's known as makruh. Okay, and unnecessary slight movement and not from the prayer, that's like known as improper. Okay, so even just like me just stroking my beard. If I'm stroking my beard, that's known as improper. Okay, if I throughout my prayer all I'm doing is stroking my beard, that's known as makruh. You understand? Because it's not part of the prayer. Or for women, you sorting out your scarves basically throughout it. This is what Shaitan plays on. My teacher gave an example of he went in the masjid and the brother sitting next to him, nice and calm. As soon as the prayer starts, Allahu Akbar, the guys, throughout the prayer, after they done salam, he's back to normal again. The teacher goes, he never said anything to anyone, but he had to say to this guy, he said, "You feel okay now?" But that was the shaitan basically. As soon as the prayer started, the guy felt like he needs to be cutting everywhere kind of thing. So it's good to have that concentration, and this is when we talk about inner dimensions, inshallah, next week. I talk about building up that concentration in prayer, and that's important. Okay, your focus in prayer. The second principle is abandonment. So leaving an integral, which we've spoke about, leaving an integral, leaving a wajib deliberately, that invalidates the prayer straight up. Leaving a fard of the prayer or leaving a wajib deliberately invalidates the prayer. Leaving a wajib forgetfully, that makes the prayer unsound, and you need to rectify it through a sajda saw, which is 2 sajdas. Okay, and we'll talk about that later. And leaving a sunnah, and this is an important one as well, leaving a sunnah act without need, that's disliked. So be careful about that as well. And principle 3 is communication. Any human utterance that is not from the prayer, or any utterance intending communication, invalidates the prayer. Okay? Yeah, so you're reading, right, and the kids are messing around. Alhamdulillah. You know any of that, yeah? Communicating what is dislike is communicating with someone with actions. Okay, so don't forget, look, if you do one movement, that's not gonna invalidate your prayer. Okay, say someone walks in and it's like, Bejoji. Yeah. You know, you're not saying anything, but through your hands is like, yeah, I'll be done in a minute. I'm praying. That's just because it's not a major action, remember. Major action is different, but just like a slight movement and back again, that's not classed as a major action, it's like minor action. You should avoid again, it's dislike, but if you kind of do like a major action or like kind of break in the mouth and like look towards them, off you go, here you go, then that's a major action, isn't it? Then you're not praying really, it's not like you're praying at all. Okay, yeah, these are just a breakdown of what I just spoke about. So we've already covered leaving an integral. We've already covered missing a wajibat. So we want to touch upon those. Yeah, is everyone clear on that? Yeah, because I did stress it last week so much. Integrals and wajibat. Missing an integral invalidates the prayer. So say Alhamdulillah. Because Alhamdulillah, they're not doing anything good. We move on to number 3 then, yeah? Any human speech or any speech intended as communication. Well, let me go through the list first, and then we move on to any human speech, lapsing of dispensation in the prayer, nullifying a precondition of prayer, and a major action. So there's 6 points I've put here that invalidate a prayer. Leaving an integral, missing a wajibat deliberately, any human speech, lapsing of a dispensation in the prayer, which I think we covered as well when we did the module on purification, nullifying a precondition of prayer, and a major action. I'm just going to quickly go through each one here. Human speech, any utterance considered worldly speech that is not part of the prayer. So saying a word like yes validates the prayer straight away. Supplication that resembles worldly speech. So, you know, you basically, anything you're going to say that sounds like worldly speech, that's invalidates your prayer. Remember when I said that if you finish prayer, provided you haven't said anything, like any worldly speech, you can still stand up, and if you just realize you forgot something, you can stand up and continue your prayer because you have not done anything to nullify your prayer. That's why I said it. Okay, these are the things that nullify your prayer. So any utterance that may be part of the prayer but is intended as communication, saying Assalamu alaikum in response to a greeting. So Assalamu alaikum is part of the prayer. We say it at the end of the prayer. But saying that as like a greeting to someone, that invalidates the prayer. Another one is, there's a famous story of this scholar who was reading Nafal prayer. And in olden times, you know, the way you used to write Arabic, you know, you got all these, the dots, up there basically all over the place, yeah? They never used to have that. Okay, it used to be just like that. We got it easy. So these 2 students are sitting down, right, scholars sitting down, and they're trying to figure out this word, and they kept saying it wrong because it was a noon and they were saying something else. And the scholar, in his prayer, right, he wants to start reading the surah. Noon, you know, continue the surah, basically just to kind of hint at them, guys, you're irritating me here, right? Can you get the right one in? So that invalidates the prayer, basically, okay? Just to get you to that point. Moaning in pain or from distress, worldly, like, you know, you're kind of uku, beji, you know, like that. That kind of invalidates the prayer, okay? Number 4, the lapsing of dispensation. So principle, the lapsing of a dispensation is the precondition or integral of prayer, invalidates the prayer immediately. Examples, A person praying with the tayammum who now finds water. So you're praying with the tayammum, but now you find water. If you remember, I gave an example that you done the tayammum and you're in prayer, and during the prayer, you remember, oh, there's some water in the car. Straight away, your prayer is invalidated. You need to go make wudu. Okay. A person praying in hoofs if the time is expired. We cover that as well. Hoofs. A person who is praying with their aura uncovered, who then finds clothes. It's a bit of spelling error there. Okay. A person praying with indication who gets the ability to make ruku or sajda. The fourth one is a bit difficult because it's not going to happen that you're praying and all of a sudden you think, you know what, my legs are fine now. Let's just stand up and start praying properly. So the scholars have been a bit more lenient on that one. Okay. Otherwise, this shaitan will be on your case all the time for that. Number 5, nullifying a precondition. Principle here is if a precondition is nullified deliberately, the prayer is immediately broken. Okay? If a precondition is nullified accidentally, the prayer is broken if it cannot be fixed within 3 tasbihs. This is an important one, this is. So the first one is invalidated straight up, but if it's basically done accidentally and you can't rectify within 3 tasbihs, then it invalidates the prayer. Prayer broken immediately, cannot be corrected if wudu breaks, obviously. One prayed before its time entered, so Zohar time hasn't even entered, and you decide, I'm going to start praying. Well, this nullifies the prayer. You're praying, I don't know what you're praying, but you're not praying Zohar. Prayed fard with the wrong intention. So again, remember what I said about intention? Intention in the heart. Not you're intending to pray Asr, but just by saying you accidentally say Zohar. That's different. What it is that you're intending to pray Zohar, but it's meant to be Asr. That's a different thing. Okay? And wrongly pronouncing the opening takbir, and I cover that as well, making the alif too long, stuff like that. Things that prayer broken unless corrected in 3 tasbihs. If you made contact with najasa and you can rectify it within 3 tasbihs, you can just remove it within 3 tasbihs and you can just continue. Aura uncovered less than a limb of, so accidentally, for women, this happens, right? Time of 3 tasbihs, subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. 3 tasbihs. Within those 3 tasbihs, if you do that, you're fine, you can continue. Any longer than that, you can't. Your chest turns away from Qibla. So kids are playing and they barge into you and you go round and around the garden. Yeah. If you don't get up and face the Qibla within 3 tasbihs, then that invalidates the prayer. Okay, any questions on that? Good. 6, a major action. Significant movement that has nothing to do with the prayer. The onlooker rule. This is what we call the onlooker rule. The onlooker rule is that I'm praying here and someone just either walks into the room or walking past and they look at me. And if they look at me and they say straight away, this guy's praying, that's fine. If they look at me and for some reason, whatever I'm doing, they think, well, this guy's not praying. Or it doesn't seem like I'm praying. That means that you're doing major actions that are outside the prayer. So if I'm just like wandering around like this, yeah, and someone going that, they're going to say, well, this guy ain't praying. That's what we call the onlooker rule. Okay. Examples: eating and drinking from outside the mouth, and be swallowing something small already in the mouth does not invalidate the prayer. Remember that, yes? Something small already in the mouth does not invalidate the prayer. Although something entering the mouth from externally, then that invalidates the prayer. Okay, that's known as a major action. Shaking someone's hand, it's someone turned and gave, someone was praying and someone walked past and it's like that and the guy's praying, giving him like a what's up, how's it going? Yeah. But shaking someone's hand, and by that, that's a major action. Completing an integral of prayer before the imam has begun it. And this is one's a bit, basically just don't go to, like sometimes kids do it. They want to do it really fast, get ahead of the imam. Just don't do that. You can't be like 2 actions in front of the imam. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but just remember that it's just stick with the imam. Okay, any questions on the invalidators before we move on to the dislikes? I just want to see how many slides are left. Oh, there's quite a bit. I didn't realize this. So let's carry on. So, dislike actions. Basis of prayer is stillness and khushu, devotion and humility. That's the basis of your prayer. Allah says, establish prayer for my remembrance and stand before Allah in a state of, for instance. So basically, have focus when you're in prayer. The heart of prayer is total remembrance of Allah. Prayer is preparation for standing on Qiyamah. That's what prayer is. Our biggest prayer will be when we're standing on the plains of Arafat, when we're standing on the day of Qiyamah in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what we're preparing for. Anything that detracts from this state is disliked. So these are principles. So anything that distracts you is disliked. The extent of the dislikedness is according to the extent of the distraction it causes, and number two, the extent to which it indicates disrespectfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to leave out a sunnah needlessly is disliked also. Quickly then, a few disliked actions. Beginning prayer with a genuine need to relieve oneself or eat. If you're hungry, go and eat first. Because all you're going to be doing throughout prayer is thinking of food. If you need to go to the toilet, go to the toilet first. Okay? Praying in presence of pictures. Now, this is disliked simply because then you're going to start looking at the aspect. It's normally if the picture is in front of you. Because what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at the picture. That's going to distract you. Obviously, you're not praying to the picture. Yeah? You're not praying to the picture. So it's just about that. It's my focus is going to be somewhere else. Intentionally placing hands on hips or waist. Right. That's disliked. That's more likely disliked. Praying with sleeves rolled up for men. Normally when they come rushing in, and like bad men, or they're just in the wudu, they have the sleeves up. That's disliked. The reason why it's disliked, and it's going to be linked to the second one, the next point as well, to pray only in transient. Oh, actually, sorry, not one. Let me talk about this. Number 4, praying with sleeves rolled up for men. If I mention it, now done. So let me go into the detail. There's 2 points here. One is this, and the other one is folding your trousers. Your trousers up, and you see that quite often as well. It's disliked because you're in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you should be in the best form possible. That is basically showing untidiness. Yeah, it's showing untidiness. When you walk into an interview, sleeves rolled up, right? Bench all like started up and all that. You wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't do that. And this is what you use as a rule for yourself. How would you turn up in like an interview or in front of a judge, etc.? That's how you should be going into prayer. Okay? And a lot of them quote the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says that these, what's the word I'm looking for? The clothes below your ankles, these will take you to the hellfire. First of all, at that time, it was called a, what they call it now, when you tie together. We don't wear that nowadays anyway. And at that time, when people walk, the ones that had pride in them, they would like leave the clothes. They used to make long clothes, and they get people to hold them from the back. Like kids to hold them from the back. Like you got the queen. Yeah, like that. That's how they used to do it. And they used to let it go through the dirt. And we don't care. Tomorrow we're going to wear something new. What they were showing pride. And that, the Prophet ﷺ said, that's going to take you to the hellfire. And people take that, misunderstand that to say that, oh, you can't have your trousers below your ankles. Okay? Because the Hazrat Abu Bakr said that, oh, what about me, oh Prophet ﷺ, because mine keeps. Hazrat Abu Bakr said, they say that it was very skinny and it would keep dropping off his waist. It would mean it'd go below his ankles. And he got worried, does that mean me? And the Prophet ﷺ said, no, you've not got a hint of pride in you. It's not for you. So people misinterpret that hadith and they take that as meaning that you have to have your ankles rolled up, as of your ankles rolled up. That's not what it means. Okay? Yawning, stretching without need. Remember what I said about yawning? Just think of the Prophet ﷺ that he never yawned, and they'll stop you yawn. So yawning and stretching without need. covering the mouth and nose. So I suppose it's more for women when you're praying. Don't cover your mouth or your nose on that. Praying in unbefitting clothes like pajamas. Praying in the presence of anything that attracts nafs. Like, so you got food there, and our Pakistanis love the chicken. So you got chicken all over the place, and you just think, let me just quickly get this prayer out of the way, and you got the food right in front of you. Now that's not the way it's done. Praying in front of an open fire. And the reason why this is disliked is because of the previous, those that used to worship the fire. So it's like, it's disliked. Don't do that. You don't want people thinking, getting misconception on that. Praying in front of a sleeping person. Again, distraction, because of when a person's asleep, right, they'll be doing funny things anyway. They're talking to themselves, whatever it is, just distraction. And the final one is moving stones or pebbles repeatedly. So you're going, these was where they used to pray there, and obviously we've got beautiful carpets here. So going down in sajda, moving all the pebbles out of the way first, make sure everything's fine, then going into sajda. Stuff like that is disliked. Oh, sorry, there's more. Prostrating with forehead covered. Yeah, so your forehead shouldn't be covered. It's fine if you've got a imama on. That's what scholars say, so that's okay. But again, your forehead should be clear. Wiping dust from forehead during prayer. So you're going down, and as you get up, there's dust on you. So every time you're just wiping dust off, because you're more worried about how you look rather than your prayer. Sitting on rear end with legs raised without need. Is a hadith, and obviously don't sit in that kind of position. Say it without saying there. Holding up one's clothes. So again, he's showing pride. You know what? I don't want to get my clothes dirty. Pull them up. So when I go down, it's like nice, and it doesn't get what I would say creased up, etc. If it means that it's easy for you to go down into sajda or something, that's a different thing. But as like I don't want to make sure my clothes will get dirty, etc. like that. That's a different thing. Praying with something hanging down from the shoulders, head without actually wearing. So let's take an example, a tie. I got a tie. What should I do? I should tuck the tie in somewhere, because when I go into ruku or sajda, the tie is going to be flopping all over the place, and that's just going to get me distracted. Okay?
What about that last one you had? Like obviously some they have the job, but then the extra.
Yeah, so I mean, you should either put it behind the back somewhere. Don't let it come forward, because all that's going to happen when it comes forward, it's going to start moving, and that's going to distract you. So remember what the principle was. Anything that distracts you, remove the distraction. Okay? Anything that distracts you, you remove the distraction. Okay? Okay, miscellaneous disliked acts. Time. So let's quickly go through a few of these and that's it. Praying with one might distract or obstruct others at the back of the masjid or by the door. I'm just going to quickly whiz through these because most of them probably not going to apply. So congregation prayer, Jama'ah prayer, praying alone in a new line. To do that, you should always have someone praying with you. Starting a new line if first line not full. This is mainly for men, obviously, on the boys. Moving before imam such that one reaches a position before him. Fidgeting is highly disliked in prayer. It may take many forms. The more distracting it is, the greater the dislikedness of it. Okay, so generally speaking, when it comes to prayer, you protect your prayer from what invalidates it and whatever is disliked within it. And the principle is avoiding harm takes precedence over attaining benefit. So you need to avoid the harm first. You probably think I'm doing something beneficial, but first of all, avoid the harm. It's by you trying to do something beneficial and you're creating something harmful. That you understand what the kind of rule, the principle is trying to state. Don't try to do something beneficial if it means harm's going to come out of it. Whatever distract is disliked. Whatever is not from prayer may invalidate it. That's what you need to remember. But I tell you what we do is then, because I don't want to rush this, we'll cover the rest of inshallah next week, and then if I have time, I'll do the inner dimensions as well with it. Yeah, we leave it at that because we're running out. We've gone out of time now. We're going over. Is that okay? Any questions before we finish? No? صلى الله على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين. الحمد لله. جزاك الله خير.